welcome back to Psychedelics Today. This is Joe Moore on the show, no Kyle today. Today I speak to Marisa Novy. Marisa has been doing some art for us and helping us with some various stuff here at Psychedelics Today, and also lives in Breckenridge, Colorado with me. And we get to chat about a really interesting festival she just got to attend out in the Kootenai Mountains, 20 miles north of the U.S. border in British Columbia. It's called Shambhala, something like that. So she got to go do some harm reduction stuff just by handing out some flyers that we put together. And it was really cool to be able to have some boots on the ground at a festival representing Psychedelics Today. And I think she and her boyfriend got to wear some shirts and show off the logos and stuff. It was really cool. So yeah, this is a festival where there's no alcohol. It's a kind of an explicitly psychedelic festival. And it seems really interesting. I don't know too much about this place. A lot of you out there probably do and have some strong opinions one way or the other. So feel free to email us any of those opinions. We'd love to hear from you. Psychedelics Today, email at gmail.com or psychedelicstoday.com. And there's a contact form there. So I think that's really it about the episode. It's kind of a short one, but we hit a lot of points. And you're definitely going to be hearing more from Marisa over the next months and years for sure. So if you want to support the show, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like us there, follow us, maybe sign up for our email list. If you want to buy some books, we got some really cool books, an integration workbook and a trip journal. Both people have told us are incredible and really have helped them a ton. We've also got the Navigating Psychedelics course. You can find that from psychedelicstoday.com or psychedelicstoday.teachable.com. And I think that's about it. So check all those things out. If you like them, cool. Worst case scenario, you can't buy anything or support us on Patreon. Just tell your friends. We'd love to hear that. You guys sent stuff to your friends. That's probably the greatest compliment you can give us. So thanks again for tuning in and see you on the next episode. All right. So this is our maybe first podcast we've done as a Facebook Live.
It is.
Sick. Okay. Everybody, Joe Moore, Marisa Novy.
Hello.
Is that how you say Novy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Novy, but there is.
I can't imagine another way to really pronounce it, I guess. But okay, so you've been helping us out for a bit and really gotten us a ton of traction on Instagram, which is dope. So you should check out her art. How do people find you on Instagram?
So you can find my art page at Martian Curiosities Instagram or my personal page at Marnovs, MARNOVS. But all my art is on Martian Curiosities.
Yeah, Instagram, it's awesome. So. Totally cool stuff. So yeah, we're both living in Breckenridge, so we get a lot of more chances than not. Like we've probably met up more than I've met Kyle, which is pretty funny. So
sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm sure you're here, Kyle. Okay, so you just had the opportunity to go to Shambhala Festival in the Kootenai Mountain Range in Canada, Alberta.
It's in BC.
Okay,
yep.
Right on the border then.
Yep.
Pretty south, like.
It's in Salmo, so it's about 20 minutes north of America.
Yeah.
About 45 minutes south of Nelson in BC.
See if we can get that a little closer to your face.
We good?
Yeah. Let me drag it from the bottom. Yeah.
All right.
Like, this is where it's at right here.
Okay. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there it is. So, and this is an interesting festival because there's no alcohol allowed, which is cool. Except I might need a beer. But what it does do is make sure you don't have the drunk jerks running around kind of being, violent or pushy or whatever.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's titled this publicly, but low-key it's titled as a psychedelic festival. It's not that they promote drug use in any way, but by eliminating the option for alcohol in terms of searching your car and, taking any alcoholic substances, not selling it on festival grounds, right, eliminates the option of people being, one, wasted, and then two, the potential to overdose on drugs if you decide to do them. So
right.
It's a lot safer in that regards because I've been to quite a few American festivals where obviously psychedelics or drugs and hard drugs Schedule 1 substances are not allowed, but they sell alcohol on the premises. Schedule 1 substances, other drugs get into the festival, and then people end up overdosing and dying. Which is sad.
The biggest win, I think, from this festival is that there was zero fentanyl found whatsoever.
Correct. So I just saw the other day, it was a post on the results. So Shambhala hires and uses Anchors, which is a drug testing company, and they have it on site. Most festivals do not allow any drug testing tents, any drug testing companies to wander around. You see a couple sometimes handing out or selling small drug testing kits just to prevent, overdosing and bad drugs or, fentanyl being found in these things. But yes, Shambhala hires Anchors, and they just released pretty recently that no fentanyl was found in this year's. There was some found last year's, but not any fentanyl was found in any of the drugs that they tested all weekend long, which is awesome. So
it speaks to the type of person going to the festival, because they're probably a more discerning consumer, I guess, lack of a better phrasing there. Like they plan ahead a little bit. They plan their consumption maybe. I don't know. Is that the impression you got? Or?
Yes. And I think it kind of straightens out the drug dealers as well. Canada's a good place, but if you're going to be a drug dealer anyway, by not having fentanyl in your stuff, because the minute that your tablet or whatever has fentanyl found in it, they're going to find you, and good luck selling any more drugs, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I guess, I don't know, it just kind of cleans up the drug scene in general. And yes, people, the festival attendees plan for what they want to take. And obviously, you go into the festival every single day, there's a huge line and you're like, I don't want to wait in that line. But it's so exciting to see so many festival attendees excited to test the drugs, like, oh, what's in this? But, wanting to be safe overall.
Yeah, because when I go to shows in the US, I'm not really seeing that. Like, I know Dance Safe tries, but they can do like pretty much maximum one show per night per city. That's a maximum figure, and that's just like equipment. Yeah.
And most of, and I know Dance Safe, most of those companies aren't even allowed into music festivals in the States, which is sad. Because then, everyone who wants to be consuming drugs just kind of has to wing it, and it's out there, it's going to get into these festivals, and it's just sad. And then, you hear about all these deaths and overdoses, and it's just too bad. So Shambhala is a really, really cool place for that.
That's great. So the main reason they can't do it here is this thing called the Rave Act, where I believe if you get caught knowingly, I guess essentially harboring people using drugs on site, they can seize everything that company owns. I think that's the case. It might not be that extreme, but I think it is. And Dance Safe will get permission from some festivals to do that, because they will get permission because people think it's worth that gamble. Are we going to worry with people's lives and that's smearing our name later, like Coachella lightning in a bottle? Or are we going to be totally clear of deaths as a result of drug testing? Drug testing doesn't eliminate risks. It just helps mitigate risks.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's cool. And is there a lot of like psychedelic education happening there, or anything?
Here and there. I guess education, you might have to end up in a bad place to be educated about it. They're very, very prominent on obviously getting your drugs tested, being educated in that form, and knowing, I guess, your safe options. So let's say you're out on the dance floor and you start to have a bad trip. Well, they have a sanctuary there, so you can come on your bad trip, where they'll fix basically two things. So between dose, set, and setting, they can't fix your dose. You've already taken it. They'll try to fix your mindset by bringing you into this place, not necessarily talking you out of it, but kind of just giving you kind words. Obviously taking you out of lots of lights and lots of heavy bass and lots of overwhelming situations. And then obviously that setting by taking you out of that, giving you a quiet, comfortable space, to then bring you out of that bad trip, or at least lead you into hopefully having a better trip. So there's a sanctuary there, and then there's the medical tent, for severe emergencies. and let's hope we never have to use that because we tested our drugs and we know our dose and all sorts of stuff. And Anchors does a good job at not only testing your substance, but saying, okay, when this is your substance, this is how much you take of this substance, so you don't overdose on it. But they have a good education setup of just knowing where to get your drugs tested, knowing your dose on the front hand, but not a whole lot more except for after the fact. If you end up in the sanctuary, if you end up, being in the medical tent, these are the kind of things that happen. But so, yeah.
Do people resist going into the chill space or medical tent or anything?
I don't know. I've never volunteered or worked in. I have friends that have worked, volunteered in the medical tent or in the sanctuary. But I've always been curious if people kind of take advantage of the fact that there is a sanctuary and taken more than what they usually would outside of the festival and, use that as kind of an excuse. Like, I'm going to go off the deep end and take way too much because I have this sanctuary I can escape to. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah. So you had the opportunity also, thank you for doing this, but handing out a whole bunch of flyers or like postcards about psychedelics today and navigating psychedelics to hopefully get these folks educated and even further reducing risks and harms. And how did that go? It
went so well. So I'm glad we led into that. It was honestly just an honor handing out flyers. I mean, the class Navigating Psychedelics is super cool, really informative. But being able to walk around with, hundreds of flyers and go into people's campsites, and you have to have that sweet spot too, where it's not too early or when everyone's down at the river escaping the sun, the blistering heat, but also not too late in the night where everyone's heading to the stages. So you kind of have to hit it at a sweet spot. But walking into people's tents and talking about psychedelics today, talking about the class, just basic to just talking about basic harm reduction techniques, 9 times out of 10 people would say, I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for caring about me and harm reduction and my, consumption. I remember walking up to one tent and a girl said, I love that you do this. I love that this is the vibe here at this festival. Like, I wish I could find this at more festivals, because she said Shambhala taught me how to consume drugs properly. She said, I used to do drugs very, I used to just go hard and do them and have a horrible night, not remember my night. And she said, between Shambhala and people like you and companies like, like what you're promoting, this is what taught me how to use drugs or psychedelics safely and have an amazing time, which is just awesome to hear. So I got amazing feedback from handing out those flyers.
That's outstanding. I think, it would be amazing if we could get stuff like this going elsewhere. And we'll see. Maybe the three of us, Kyle, you and I, can go next year and see what happens. Festivals are willing to have people like us like talk and share some tips. I think there was this big, what was it? I feel like it was a rap festival, but I'm not so sure. It was probably like the Southern New Jersey version of what happened in Canada. And this guy had 5,000 plus people coming and wanted us to like have a stage. We just didn't pull it together for whatever reason, unfortunately. But it was still great to like, be able to get some basic harm reduction info in front of those folks.
Well, and the thing is too, is you're not, yes, we're selling something, but on hand, we're not selling anything. It's free information. You can never be too informed when it comes to substances. So.
Right. And now we're doing like a free version of Psychedelic or Navigating Psychedelics, which you guys can check out, psychedelicstoday.teachable.com. What is it called? Navigating Psychedelics 101, something like that. So check that out, peeps. Free. So you get a whole bunch of information to keep you safe. And I think it's going to really help. So what kind of festival is this, Shambhala?
The best one. Shambhala is, I guess it's hard to describe. Like I said, I've probably been to 6 or 7 music festivals total, and this was the first music festival that I've been to outside of the States. It's my second year going. I went once and I can't stay away. And last year was an interesting year. We had a ton of fires, super scary, but we stuck through the weekend and made it back this year. But Shambhala is, it's technically an electronic music festival, but it's what I really like about Shambhala in terms of the music scene is each stage kind of is run by its own like manager. So each stage picks his own artist. So instead of saying, all right, I'm a music festival, I'm going to bring in all these different artists, and then I'm going to plop this one on that stage, this artist on the other stage, each stage curates their own sound. So there's a very bassy stage, and there's a very like down-tempo stage, and then more of like a headliner stage. So each stage has its own experience of in terms of the vibes and like the feel of the stage and the feel of the music. So that's one thing that I love about Shambhala. And that's, I guess, what kind of type of music festival it is, because it's not just one style. Each stage has its own style. But there's so much other, there's so many other things that go on through the festival. I mean, the vendors are amazing. There's so many different activities and events. I mean, obviously you have like the typical yoga that happens every day. But just the silly things like seeing on the porta potties, like consent posters. And it's like, I've never seen that at another festival, but just, I guess, the little bits of care and pride that every attendee has going to the festival just makes it so warm, and it feels like home. I mean, everyone calls Shambhala home when you've been there. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's an amazing festival.
Yeah, the consent thing is a weird subject. Like, why is that something we have to talk about? It's strange in this day and age. Like physically speaking, if you're like to touch somebody like without asking, that's kind of not okay. A lot of folks do it anyway, but consider that a consent issue. But people like dosing each other with acid, like that's unbelievable.
So yeah, it's no good. That's no good. But yeah, the consent thing is, and I mean, just the fact that it's there and like in the air and talked about makes it feel safe. Like, like there's people here that will help me, and I always say Shambhala too. I mean, I've gone with friends for the past 2 years, but even if I went by myself, you're never alone at Shambhala. You know, if you fell on the ground and there's something wrong, like someone next to you is going to help you up and give you, the help that you need. There's no being alone at Shambhala. Everyone's your family. It's really, really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. So was there any like majorly special thing that happened there? Other than like music and like cool dancing, and like, did you meet anybody that was incredible, or art that blew your mind? Oh,
art. Yes. There's a ton of art. There's a lot of, I guess like art galleries set up throughout the forest, which is really cool. So you see a lot of that, and you see like the sound bath, like the gong bath you can go in and enter and immerse yourself in. There's the rabbit hole that you fall down into. So you can't, doesn't have like a entrance. You just kind of like wander in, you're like, where am I? And then it's like, welcome to the rabbit hole. There's a lot of that like interactive, immersive kind of art experience there. Honestly, my favorite part about Shambhala is literally the people. It's the littlest, tiniest things. I mean, this year, there was a school bus, right near where we were camping, and every morning at 8 a.m. they had like a stuffed animal sloth, and they held it up and played, the Lion King song every single morning.
Oh boy.
It's just the little things. I mean, and you see that a lot of festivals too, but something about Shambhala is it's just so much more genuine and pure. Just those little things, the things that people say and the things you walk past. It's just amazing. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I assume there was a fair amount of drug consumption there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the standard list that we'll see at most festivals: LSD, ketamine, mushrooms, MDMA. I think that's it. That's the standard set. Is probably cocaine, probably.
Cocaine, yep. This year there's a lot of whippets, which I have never experienced so much of in my life. You just heard the tanks all weekend long, and that was
big tanks.
That was new for me, just hearing it so much and seeing it a lot. Previous years, I mean, just at any festival, I hadn't seen it as much as I have this year, but
it's an interesting kind of debauchery. It's obviously an interesting experience. It feels really good, but it's like a lot of folks just get like really deep into it. Like it's a crack
like
thing.
Sitting at a whole group of people sitting at a stage on the ground with their bean bags, like literally bringing your bean bags to the stage to do your whippets like during the show. It was just different than what I've seen, in previous years. I just saw a lot of it this year, but yes, lots of, and you can feel the different vibes too, what people are on. But I will say people's energy is a lot more clean at a festival where there's no alcohol allowed. Because other festivals, not only will people, not only will they be on ketamine and coke and tripping or doing whatever, they're also like stumbling and wasted, and it's just like this sloppy kind of grimy energy. And Shambhala has that cleaner energy, you know.
Right.
Anyone you interact with, like, you can pretty much talk to, you know. There's not anyone that's so like,
it's a great way to put it.
that's struggling.
Sloppy and grimy.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a big turnoff when you're like hanging out with some folks and then the drunk person comes over. You're like, oh, really? Great.
Yeah. The energy is good. Yeah. The energy is so good at Shambhala.
Cool. So I guess maybe let's talk about, well, unless there's more Shambhala you want to talk about.
I think I got it all out. It's exciting to talk about.
Yeah, it seems cool. Or before we jump, top 3 artists that you saw there?
Yes. Okay. And this is obviously biased. This is a me thing. I saw Closey and Charles I last year for the first time, and I was blown away. So I had to make it to see Charles I again this year. Top set of the weekend. Just amazing. Really good, like, kind of spiritual down tempo, but bassy vibes. Just awesome. Look him up. Second would probably be Liquid Stranger. He was slotted to play, you know, at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then he got moved up to 7 p.m. and it was the first official night of Shambhala, so everyone was there. Everyone wanted to see Liquid Stranger, so there was just so much liveliness happening at that set. So that was probably number 2. Number 3 was Defunk. He's an artist from Canada as well. Last year was my first time seeing him as well. And then I saw him once in Denver this past year, and his set was amazing this year too. And I met him by the river. He was a really, really cool dude. So check him out as well.
Yeah, I advise all those artists. They're really fun. Might not be for everybody, but check them out.
And that's 3 very different styles of music as well. That's not just one category. I mean, Liquid Stranger's pretty space bassy, and like I said, Charles I is a little bit more mellow, and Defunct's kind of funky. So you get 3 good styles right there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I've actually never asked you any of these questions before. So like, intro to like, what captivated you first about psychedelics?
Okay. So oddly enough, I had I call him a shaman, but I mean, it was literally someone who just gave me a book. And it was called Cosmic Trigger by Robert Anton Wilson. And it was probably one of the best books I've ever read.
Super fun book. One
of the best books ever. And so as soon as I read that, and I mean, it is an interesting book. He goes into so much detail about really, really cosmic stuff and eating peyote buttons and, you know, all sorts of stuff, and tripping and documenting his trips and things like that. And I'm like, what is this stuff? You know, this is out there. And I wasn't into books before that. I mean, I was not into any books, fiction, nonfiction. Like, I wasn't into Harry Potter. I wasn't into any of that stuff. And I'm like, this is real life, but still super mystical. So that alone got me kind of interested. And then I partook in taking psychedelics for the first time, probably my junior year in college, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy, you know. And I was always,
remember what it was in the dose?
It was LSD, and it was a half tab, and I was always super resistant to taking any psychedelics, any drugs ever. Like, even weed, I was not even into smoking weed. I was like, I'm never gonna do it. Like, I want to live a clean life. That's it. Like, I don't want to, you know, experiment. And it kind of just opened my eyes, like, hey, there's something else out there. And it started to open my eyes to, I mean, simple things like the beauty of nature and just like the mystery of things, and opening and expanding consciousness. So I started reading more books, and then I started taking more, you know, not more, but more frequent LSD, and then experimenting with mushrooms and things like that, you know, and then I just kind of fell down my own little rabbit hole, and just my interest just never went away. And I learned that it helped me with my creativity. It helped me with my focus. I was really into yoga at the time. So I was practicing, you know, 3-4 times a week, and it kind of just, they all fed each other. And I was just literally, I felt like the best me that I ever was. And I was helping so many people, and I was creating the best art that I've ever made. And I was, you know, finishing school in my senior year, and, you know, straight A 4.0 student, and president of the student organization that I was part of, which was the largest in the school. You know, I was just feeling on top of the world. And so, you know, I didn't stop. I just believed in the substances, and I believed in their results. So
yeah, that's great. We don't get too many like super positive, like no negative stories like that, where it's just like right off the bat, doing great. A lot of people have like some really tough shit they're going through in their lives. And, yeah, it's great to hear it went that way for you. And art got empowered, yoga got empowered, like, and grades didn't slip too much.
No, it was better. They just kept getting better.
Yeah, I think there is something to like an IQ boost with psychedelics. I don't know exactly if it happens all the time. Probably not. But for some individuals, you become quite a bit smarter. So that's good. Did it make you question a lot of stuff that was going on in school or around you?
Just like everything in the world. It kind of made me angry a little bit at first, because I felt like, you know, when you take psychedelics, it's almost like this new truth is revealed. And I just started to question everything. Like, why have I been lied to my whole life? You know, why are things so corrupt? Why are we so wasteful? You know, just so many things. I will say when I did partake in it the first time, it's not like I had, or knew of at least, an issue that I had to deal with. It's not like, oh, I'm in this bad place, I'm going to resort to psychedelics to help me out. I was kind of at the place where it was like, I was already doing great in life. Like, I knew where I was going. You know, I had the best friend group. You know, I had good relationships with all my family members. So I was like at my peak anyway. And then it was like, okay, like, how can I go higher? Like, how can I expand on this? So yeah, it's not like I had anything dark or any problems I needed to work with that I resorted it to. It was just like, okay, let's like see what this does more so.
Right. But there is still that frustration. I identify with that quite a bit. Like, why am I and everybody I know being so misled about a lot of things? And yeah, like I was just at the gym yesterday watching, you know, you're on the bike and you got like 10 TVs in front of you. You're like, this is kind of crazy. And Fox News, of course, has like some stuff going on. Like, hey, this correspondent has criticisms on how the left handled the papal molestation thing, like the Vatican Church molestation stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you know, yeah, of course there's issues, but like, really? And then the next line was like about some sexual abuse case at a school, but it was like the lady like did some bad stuff to the dude, but like the way they like phrased it was just outrageous. Like, guess who got in trouble? Go figure. I'm like, come on, you lunatic.
Yeah, news. I mean, and this was kind of on the upswing of when everything started happening with the US too, and like Trump was getting elected, and like everything is just being stirred anyway. And, you know, it started to make me hate school a little bit. Like, I'm just in this cog of a system, and I think I know where I'm going, but now do I know where I'm going? Do I want to use my degree? You know, it's just so many. It stirred up a lot of emotions for sure, and a lot of like questions.
Yeah.
And it piqued enough curiosity, because I'm like, what's this all about? You know.
Yeah. I was in a hotel in Hong Kong watching Republican Party nominate Trump, like live. Like, oh no. And then I was in Canada when he got elected. I'm like, oh shit. I had to go to work the next day in Canada, and my coworkers are all busting my balls so bad about Trump. I'm like, come on. But yeah, it's interesting to see like what's going on, and like I want to say psychedelics help with clear thinking, but I've seen so many people get disorganized thoughts. And
it almost becomes more difficult sometimes. Yeah, like it clears your mind, and the simple things like bring like the grounding things, which is weird. You think it would like bring you up cosmically and like, you know, be thrown down that wormhole. But it, you know, it does help with a lot of the simple grounding, like putting good things into your body and taking care of your body, and really, you know, being mindful of, you know, simple moments, and, you know, just respecting nature, like those things, those very grounding things. But when it, you know, comes to the big picture, it can throw you for a loophole, you know. There's a lot happening. It's a lot to worry about when you really start caring about things again, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a lot to worry about.
Yeah. And have you had like, I've had some pretty extreme, difficult experiences. Maybe like maximum 4, 2 on drugs and 2 in breath work. Have you had any like pretty challenging situations?
I have. I don't think it was always, so again, I always use the 3 rules. And again, it's from the book Cosmic Trigger, dose, set, setting. I refer to it all the time. It's the most basic framework for having a good or a bad trip. The most difficult experience that I've had was with the setting. Like, my mindset's always correct. Like, I would never just take a drug and be like, all right, I'm in an unstable place in my life anyway. This is going to fix it, or I don't care what happens. I've always been in a really good mental state. So the way I refer to it is, if you see a car accident and you see someone die, you're going to freak out in real life. If you're on acid and you see a car accident and you see someone die, you're going to freak out times 10. Like, it's going to be extremely, extremely hard to deal with. So most of my difficult experiences have been something in my external setting that's happening, but not, and I've never had a really, really deep internal issue that I've had to deal with. Maybe I'm lucky because, it's 50% of the time it can happen. But yeah, I've never had a personal issue where it's just been bugging me or have trouble integrating my experience technically. It's more of like, all right, this is happening in real life, regardless of my, what I'm on and in my mental state. It is what it is. I'm going to deal with it the best I can. And then, I'm going to help, I'm going to figure out how to process it afterward. So yeah, I guess I haven't had like a really, really difficult experience. And I feel for the people that have, because I know personally so many people that have. And it goes into, did they take the right amount? Did they take the correct version of what they thought they were taking? What was their mindset going into it? All sorts of things. And then they just don't come out necessarily okay. And I've had to help people work through things like that. And it's not my job, but it's just kind of the society we live in. We don't have
Nobody else is able to really do that except for a handful of therapists throughout the country.
And we're really moving in a good direction, but it's slowly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So here's a thought. Are all bad trips or challenging experiences bad, in your opinion?
Again, by experience, my version of a bad trip could be a tenth of what someone else experienced. I don't know. But I don't think that a bad trip is bad. I think in life, it's not like we prance through everyday life and everything great happens to all of us. We have so many bad things happen to us and so many challenges that we learn from. And that makes us a better person. So yeah. I think a bad trip is like having a bad dream or an accident on the street or anything that you work through and you learn from. So
yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think somebody could have like a literal bad trip and have it be negative to their lives. But there's just such little data on it. Like, because it's hard to research, we don't really know much. Yeah, I just can't wait till we can have tons of research happening throughout the world. It's going to be a real game changer for a lot of folks. Like HPPD, hallucination persisting disorder, something like that. Something along those lines. That's like the flashbacks thing.
Okay.
So it's in the DSM. So like the psychiatrists have agreed that it's a thing, but the definition is kind of wonky. I think it's only visual, when in fact, like a lot of the flashback type stuff is like somatic or like ideation, stuff like that. Which to me kind of hints of trauma. Like, you got traumatized, which I think can happen. Like, you at any point you can get traumatized, just like this car accident.
And
it's probably more easy to traumatize you in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. It's a good point that you make too, is that it's not necessarily the trip. Like, the trip magnified what you may have to what you may have to work on. Yeah. Some subtle body issues. So the trip magnified it, and you have a flashback and you think it's from the trip, but it's really the trip that magnified that issue in yourself. It's just reminding you that you might still have that issue to work with.
Absolutely.
I'm not completely familiar with flashbacks. I've never had one. Maybe that's
You're
good.
Lucky.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds horrible, but it might. And I'm not a scientist. I don't know how it works, but maybe it has to do with resolving the issue that you never worked with or you never integrated your experience into.
That's the Groff model.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways, that's Groff model. So like this, you didn't complete your process. Like sometimes it takes 2 to 7 sessions to complete a single thing. And it can be really hard. Like I've seen people go at a particular issue in breath work for sometimes 2 years, and then they finally get it. But then they're on to the next thing, of course. But like, it's an interesting deal. And, going back in can help you re-engage in that. But, at a festival, like there's so many different contexts of use, right? Therapeutic, ritual, celebratory.
Yeah. And when I originally took it, I was for more of like the spiritual state versus, hey, I'm here to party. It was just like, let me take it and let me walk through the woods. You're right. It is. And it's super overwhelming to see people, to see people take it at festivals and just go crazy. And there's already so many lights and, a lot of music and a lot of things happening. And it's like, working with you and knowing about integration and knowing how I used to do it too. Like I would, after my trip, I would make art and I would peacefully drink my tea, and I like did it in a certain way that felt right for myself. And just to know that people are doing it day in and day out, day 1 through 4 every day, and not really integrating their experience, which I guess is the stress that I feel when I go to when I see psychedelics and all drugs being taken at festivals. It's a lot. I think there needs to be like a post-festival festival for people to like wind down and not just like, all right, time to go, like go back to your houses and your jobs and all the things. Like, let's have a day where we can talk about it with each other or something, Maybe we'll move that way. Maybe that's something that festival needs.
Burning Man world is not a habit, like a regular thing people do is decompression parties. So decomp, a lot of cities do it. I know at least Boston, Denver, San Fran do it.
Cool.
And I think that's a good way to do it. It's such a big festival that you're going to have at least 100 people in your hometown that went there. But, it would be cool to have like, I'm sure there were at least 50 people from Denver at Shambhala.
Oh, totally.
So figure out how to have like a party 2 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly. In the bigger cities. Yeah,
it doesn't need to be a rager. You just get together, chill with the chill DJ.
Chill zone. Talk about it. Yeah, decompress. One thing that I think festivals need to, just because I saw so much traction with handing out the flyers at Shambhala. I mean, there's so many integrative experiences, like I said, there's yoga every day and a sound bath and so many meditation sessions and just so many things happening. I think that it wouldn't hurt to have more harm reduction within the festival. Before all the artists come on, the artists probably start anywhere between 2 or 3 in the afternoon. From noon and 1 or whatever, just have like informative speaker sessions. Someone like Psychedelics Today coming in, holding the stage for probably an hour and just talking about harm reduction techniques and just different things and how to integrate your experience or things like that. It's information. It can't hurt. It's just something I've never seen at a festival, but after this year and realizing the benefit it can do, just what if this existed? Doesn't hurt.
100%. Like it's a big deal. And it could really help a lot of folks. There's so many terms to look at these things in. Like, is it like healthcare costs the individual? Is it like units of suffering, if that's even a thing? Is it, how do you scale what these wins look like? And really help more people. And there's a lot of opportunities here to help a lot of folks. So, if you're wondering on how to get involved in the psychedelic movement, there's a gazillion ways, including, getting educated yourself and going and sharing it at different places.
Exactly.
Yeah, go share it with the middle school kids and make sure by the time they hit high school, they don't have. There's some actually really cool stuff.
It's a better dare out there.
There is. So we just talked about it in our last episode, and Drug Policy Alliance is really pushing for a new drug-related curriculum in New York. So they're like trialing it. Apparently, it was really successful in California. So that's going to be a really interesting move.
Cool.
So we kind of have to wrap. But what else might you want to raise before we roll? And this won't be your last time on the show.
Yeah, no, I think we kind of chatted about a little bit of everything. Again, Shambhala is just a really amazing festival, a psychedelic festival. I'll phrase it like that. If you haven't gotten the chance to go. It's the best place on earth. And again, I mean, if you don't know how to do your drugs, either go to Shambhala, they'll teach you how to do your drugs properly, or take a look at, Psychedelics Today and our Teachable class, because can never be too informed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't wait to see what we're able to do to reduce harm further. Mm-hmm. So, Marisa, Novy, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Instagrams again?
Instagrams. My personal one is Marnovs, Marnovs. But my art page is Martian Curiosities. So take a look. But thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Yes.
And there you have it. Marisa and Novy. Hope you liked it, everybody. So quick reminder, if you want to support us, maybe throw us a review on iTunes or Facebook. Scoop some books up from Psychedelics Today, shop.com. We've also got some mugs and t-shirts there with some new designs we just put up. And maybe you'll like those. So again, Psychedelics Today, shop.com. And if you want to get educated and keep harm low, take our class, Navigating Psychedelics. There's a lot of issues out there in the party world, the psychedelic world right now. Fentanyl showing up all over the place. Drugs are being misrepresented. You might remember a story from last summer where a lady unfortunately ingested this drug called 2,5-INBOME, 2,5-INBOME, instead of what she thought was LSD. She thought it was LSD, ate the wrong drug. A lot of people enjoy this drug for whatever reason, but it doesn't feel exactly like acid, but it's a little bit. And it's a lot cheaper to manufacture, so people sell things, call it acid, and people get hurt or killed. So you can learn how to avoid all those risks by getting educated with Navigating Psychedelics. So check that out, Navigating Psychedelics. And you could be the person that saves you or your friends' lives. So hope that wasn't too heavy of a story, but we're dealing with some tricky issues out here in psychedelic land. So that's kind of what we have to do. We have to be our own first aid people in a lot of cases, and pre-aid, like planning. There's these 5 Ps: prior, proper, planning prevents poor performance. What if we really planned better? Maybe we could save lives too. So hope you check out the class. There's also a free version out there. It's missing some of the master classes and extras. And let us know what you think. Again, Psychedelics Today, email@gmail.com. This is Joe Moore signing off from Breckenridge, Colorado for Psychedelics Today. Peace.